Movies on video cassette.
Welcome to Strange Glow Video.
Guys, I'm eating junk and watching rubbish.
We're oozing with VHS, horror, nostalgia, and more.
New Better Block Glow in the Dark.
After it throws some videotape.
You can get a glow-in-the-dark hand puppet from the movie Casper.
And now, your hosts, Alec, Justin, and Nick. Hey, welcome back to Strange Glow Video. My name is Justin. With me, as always, is my co-host extraordinaire, Alec. How you doing?
What's going on?
So we are live tonight, so thanks for joining the live show. We've started doing this. This is, what, our third week now?
Yep.
Yeah, week 3 going live on Mondays. It's when we normally record, but we figured, hey, we'll just go live with these things. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk some Alien Romulus. So we checked it out over the weekend, and we're going to get into it here. Obviously, last week we covered Alien and Aliens, and then I also watched Prometheus, part of Alien Covenant, and just to kind of get ready for everything.
Yeah, I remember they're posting when this production of this movie started and stuff. I was pretty interested in it. It's Fede Alvarez who did Don't Breathe, and then he did the Evil Dead remake. So people had pretty high hopes for this. I don't know if it paid off for everyone.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of mixed opinions of this. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit. I had fun with it.
It's like my 4th favorite Alien movie so far. There's 3 movies that I like better than this one in the franchise, if you include all of them.
That's fair, and that's including all your Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I actually just did a ranking video for my channel, so it hasn't come out yet, but I did record that, and I re-ranked all of them, and some of them changed. Some of them went up, some went down, but...
Okay. Yeah, so if we were just to go straight with rankings, this one ranks number 4 for me.
That's where I have it.
And I'll just tell you what they are. It's Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, and then Alien Romulus.
Correct. This is the correct list right there. Top 4.
So that's bound to piss a few people off, mostly because Prometheus, there's a lot of people that didn't understand that movie or didn't appreciate it for what it was.
Well, I'm
myself included. So the first time I watched that, it didn't really stick with me. I wasn't like super impressed with it, but I also made the mistake of not having watched Alien and Aliens at least just to kind of get myself in the mindset for it. And when I had done that, I enjoyed this movie so much more and taking into account for what it truly is.
Yeah.
So
it's a little more philosophical than some people like. I think that's the issue they have, that it's like trying to talk about the creation and origin of life. And I'm like, well, it kind of checks out. It's in theme with the first movie still.
it is, right? What's the unknown? And then
there's a little bit more of it in that Prometheus for sure, because the first one is borderline just a slasher in space, but it also is really smart and interesting and all that stuff too.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that's agreeable. So I didn't have high hopes or high expectations for Alien Romulus going into it. I was just like, okay, this is new. Fede Alvarez being the director obviously caught my attention because I think he's an interesting director to watch right now. And so I was excited to see this, but I wasn't putting my hopes in there because, we've seen a fair amount of Alien content, right? When you look at everything that's been released and then you look at the Alien versus Predator movies and all that, there's a fair amount of stuff out there that is kind of it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that it's bad or anything like that, but this definitely ranks a lot higher than some other things. And then, they also announced that Alien Earth has finished wrapping. And that's a television series. It's coming to Hulu. I don't know if that'll be sometime next year or 2026, but
Forgot about that entirely.
yeah, I just saw that they wrapped obviously with the hype of Romulus at the box office this weekend, they're trying to build some continuity and cross marketing promotion stuff for that, I would think, based on what I've seen. But that show, I'm more worried about that show than I am anything else right now, honestly.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that one. I don't know how to feel about that until I have more information. But Alien Romulus, I was getting pretty stoked these last few months. Maybe one of my most anticipated movies of the year for sure. Because, it's supposed to be a return to horror. And I think it was, but also I think in tone, Prometheus was most similar to Alien in the tone, the horror tones.
Yeah, I would agree.
Till this movie, which I think is a little bit closer to the horror tones, but there's still less of it than there is in Prometheus. But I mean, it's pretty trickled throughout Alien, the original too. It's not like full-fledged horror in your face all the time, super gory.
No, the original is, like you said, it was a slasher. Like, it's half slasher during the violent scenes. It really has some of those scary moments, but it's also suspenseful, right? And that's what that movie does so well, because you don't have a ton of screen time for the Alien, but the screen time you do have is scary, and the rest of it's very much suspense and well done music, well done sets that feel like you're trapped. And I feel like Romulus has a fair amount of that in it, but it also has a decent amount of wide open spaces, almost like we would see in Aliens. So I wouldn't say it's like, I would say this, to me, this feels more like Alien than Aliens, right? Obviously drastically different, but I felt like this movie is trying to find a balance between the two and kind of find a middle ground, but I felt like it leaned more towards the original.
I don't. Some of it really reminded me of the second movie, but that's probably the second half of it. Although I think tonally they were obviously trying to balance the line between the two, and aesthetically they captured that very well. I think too, like how. By the way, we're about to get into spoilers. We're about to start talking about the plot of Alien Romulus. So if you haven't seen it yet and you care about spoilers, there's a warning right there.
Yeah,
but this
spoiler
movie
alert.
Movie opens up with what I thought was very interestingly like complete silence, right?
Mhm.
And you kind of reveal this spaceship, and then it shows the computer system sort of waking up, similar to how Alien opens up. Almost the exact same type of computer waking up, like in how in Alien it wakes up and it sets the mission and on course and everything. The computer starts talking and realizing what's happening. That's what's happening here. So I was like, awesome. This is already, I'm pleased. I like where this is going. Then they kind of show the Nostromo, like the wreckage from it.
Yeah, we see the wreckage kind of floating in space, and obviously they spell it out for you because they literally have the vessel name on a piece of metal that floats in front of the camera. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. If you didn't have that, you could assume that's what it is. But the fact that they just gave it to us, like, they didn't necessarily have to have the full damn ship name on there. But by the time you do that, okay, whatever, may as well just do it, right? Like, why give us 4 letters instead of the whole thing? But
I didn't hate that. I kind of like that. I was stoked at that point still. And then basically you can kind of see a little more of the Weyland-Yutani Corp. They're taking that thing back. And then you get this mining colony. When you kind of get introduced to our characters, at least our central 2 characters. What's her name? Rain, and then Andy.
Yeah, Rain and Andy.
And it's not instantly revealed that he's an android, but it is shortly, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's early on. Like, right at first, we kind of see him telling these jokes, and we're like, okay, he just seems a little different, right?
Neurodivergent, to be perfectly honest, is what I was thinking. It was a neurodivergent person, possibly, or I was thinking android. I was like, this could go either way here, and that's sounds fucked up to say, I guess, out loud, but you know what I mean, robot. But
yeah, but you just are trying to comprehend like what this character is about at that point. It made him intriguing. It didn't feel like
I walked away and he was my favorite character by the end for sure. So
he had a really good story arc, I would say. Definitely for an android, he had one of the best out of the whole series so far.
Yeah, he I don't know, I just really enjoyed him. But And we got to get this plot that some of they're living on this mining colony for working for Weyland-Yutani, and they're basically slaves.
Yeah, they're
Like,
basically trying to work for their freedom, and then Rain tries to go and get her freedom set up, and they basically deny her and say, nope, due to a labor shortage, we're doubling the hours you have to work, which is pretty scary. Now, this was an interesting planet because, they basically said the sun never shines on there. And
it can't
so,
get through the clouds of ash.
yeah, yep, the ash. And then obviously they're doing mining on there, which goes hand in hand with what we know about the first alien, right? There's a vessel bringing back the mined ore or whatever it is, just to kind of get that back to Earth. And
I
so this goes hand in hand and
The,
complements that story well.
the atmosphere generator from Aliens is there.
Mm-hmm.
That, we manufacture those.
Yeah. Yeah, and on this
I thought
planet,
that was awesome. Like not everybody's going to get that. Super fans are going to see that and instantly recognize the building, though, as the building that's on the same planet in Aliens. It's a different planet, obviously, but very interesting. I thought it's what makes the atmosphere for the planet. It generates that.
Yeah, and if you've seen Aliens, obviously, or Prometheus, drastically different planets on there, and I thought this did a good job of being unique as well.
Well, right, because it's lived on too, but it's not Earth either. So it's very. We hadn't seen we've seen space stations in Aliens, and then what? Alien 3 is another prison planet area or whatever that is.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite in the series. Alien 3 was not.
Where's Resurrection takes place? I can't even recall. It's been a while since I've actually watched that one.
Yeah, Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection just don't do it for me.
Prometheus and Covenant. Covenant looks very much like an Earth-like planet, though, so it's not anything crazy, just like grassland.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I like the look of this planet. I liked all of the production design. And I saw on Twitter there was one of the guys who did some of the artwork for this movie, like the concept art.
Mm-hmm.
He was posting some of his artwork and pictures from Aliens and Alien saying, this is what I was directly trying to do. Like, for example, the armory, the locker there looks exactly like the one in Aliens and stuff.
Yeah. There's lots of things that they brought back that felt right in this. My biggest gripe with Prometheus is a very small one for what most people complain about. But my biggest complaint in there was that the technology looked like it was way more advanced than in Aliens, even though it took place further back in time. Now, you brought up a good point that I hadn't thought of. You had said that you felt like it was, an industrial ship. The tech may have been older, may not have been as good as an exploratory vessel would have. And so, okay, I can take that into my head a little bit. But I love the fact that this movie brought back that CRT screens and incandescent light bulbs for a lot of the lighting and things like that. It felt a lot more natural it felt more in universe than some of the other stuff we've seen just based on that. But it does help me digest it a little bit better when you say, an exploratory vessel is going to have better tech than tried and true stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can buy that. But I have to think about that and stop and think about that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense, but also if you want to compare the tech in the space station that they get to, that stuff is all newer than what's in Prometheus and is also CRTs and shit. So it kind of falls apart a little bit also. I'll admit that, but that's how I'm choosing to think about it.
Yeah, but that was one of my favorite parts of Romulus was the fact that they brought back that original design aesthetic from Alien and Aliens, right? There's a lot of things that really felt like they fit better there.
A lot of the clothing fit with that too. I wish they had done a little bit more with the hairstyles and stuff, but at the same time, the future can be wildly different, especially mining colonies, everything else. Like, by that, I meant to say that I think it should have looked a little bit more like 1979, like their hair, But at the same time, you think it is 20 years later and 20 years and on a different planet. So it's like, I can let that slide for sure.
Yeah, and if you're literally working as a slave to a corporation, like your fucking aesthetic is not going to be what's driving you as a character. So I, it would have been nice to have seen some of those styles at least influenced in there, but it wasn't necessary. But I get your point on that. So,
Yeah, so basically they go up to this space station. They need Andy because he can talk to Mother. And they're going up there because it's decommissioned and it's just floating around, and they want to get to it before it crashes into the rings.
mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting because at first, they play it off as the ship that they're going to steal the cryopods from to get where they need to go.
Yeah.
And we don't realize it's a space station. And it looks to be, when they arrive, has been abandoned a lot more recently than is let on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was all fascinating. It was like, okay, it was pretty fun to see that.
It has a slow build. Let's talk about some of the deaths in this.
Okay. There's a good amount of deaths in this, right?
So I think the first one is when she gets the face hugger attached to her, and then, which is given away by the trailers and the poster, this character is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's over with.
Yeah.
Her with the X-ray thing is in the trailer, so you kind of know that she's going to have a chest burster. At least if you're thinking about it, stuff like that, like I am, unfortunately. Just waiting for that scene to happen. And then it does, and it's pretty cool. It's dope.
Yeah. And that's not to say that they couldn't have done misdirection in that with the trailer. I mean, we've seen that before, and they could have used that same tech for something else, but I fully anticipated that to be a death, which I did like. I did like that. I mean, it was very scary to see that thing moving around inside her, but what bothered me about that was that she wasn't scared that something was alive inside her. It didn't feel like she was worried about it. She's like trying to help her. Like if I saw a living creature thrashing around inside somebody, I'd be like, oh, fuck, they're dead.
Right.
Yet, Rain is there to try to help her. So
I don't think Rain's there at that point, is it? It's the other girl, the pregnant girl that's with her.
Oh, that is Kay.
I was like, I don't remember her name, but the pregnant girl is the one that's in there with her. And yeah, she didn't have a lot to do until all of a sudden she certainly did.
Yeah.
Which was the thing about this movie is you're kind of like watching this and you're shocked. And you're like, this is interesting. And you're like, and then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. It's kind of like the Alien Resurrection and Prometheus both do this sort of giving birth to an alien hide rib thing.
Yeah, that was. I mean, visually, it's unsettling. I didn't mind it because it was different than what we'd seen before, especially with how it looked when we get there. But
yeah, I didn't mean to like jump ahead, but like also shit, couldn't help it. So then there's the guy who looks like Josh Brolin from the Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
Has the red headband tied around, and he fucking he decides to electrocute this pod and then just stand there in front of it like a dumbass and gets jizzed on, acid jizzed. And I actually, while I'm saying this, acid jizzed, I want to talk about also, they turned up that fucking H.R. Geiger, everything looks like a pussy and a dick.
Oh, yeah.
They turned that up to 11 in this.
That's great, though, because H.R. Geiger was so into that. Then the fact that they went back to that original artwork inspiration to do it, it was like, oh, great. That was awesome. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah. This alien has a clit.
Uh-huh. It might have a spike attached to the end of it, but it's all good.
But seeing that guy get killed from acid was pretty dope. You're like, shit. Like his hand starts melting away and then it's on his torso and it's fucking over with.
Yeah, I mean, he prods that thing, obviously very phallic insertion, all that kind of whole thing. One of my friends that I saw this with, Edgar, our friend Edgar, said he was getting like serious like abortion vibes from like the way they're trying to handle lots of things in this movie. And I was like, okay, I could see that kind of commentary seeping through there.
Well, that's the thing when she says, get it out of me and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a line from Prometheus.
Yeah.
Because she has that same scene where she actually does she has a C-section at that point because it's just birthed. But She's getting it torn out of her in that movie in not a dissimilar fashion through one of those surgical pods,
Yeah, the surgical pod on the escape.
which is just awesome. I love that scene so much.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking wild and gross. Just similar to this one. I think they did that one pretty great in this one too. The birthing scene.
Yeah, and there's a lot of callbacks to the whole franchise within this movie. Some of them work really, really well. Some of them are fucking obnoxious.
I'm glad that Prometheus was tied into it. So glad, because I heard somewhere that the director was like gonna ignore Prometheus hard. So when not only did we get the black goo,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows that they kind of like re-engineered it or whatever, and it's like it's not the same black goo, but it's similar.
Yeah.
And then he directly references the Prometheus missions or whatever he says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that ties it all back together in a nice way that's not... It didn't feel obnoxious. It didn't feel forced. I was just able to take it in and enjoy it. Which, we've seen a lot of movies that are just like, hey, remember... Now, there is one fucking moment in this movie that really I just thought was so fucking dumb I wanted to leave for a brief moment. And that was the whole "get away from her, you bitch." I just fucking hated that. Like, we don't need that.
I've seen everybody criticizing that. That is definitely way too obvious. Even if he had just said "get away from her," that'd have been okay. But then
he didn't need to finish the line. To me, the way that he finished the line the same way, like with his off-put delivery, because obviously he's kind of glitching out again at that point in time. Andy is. And I just felt like they could have done that as an alternate take, or not done the full line or done part of the line, and it would have felt more natural. But that just felt so shoehorned in there that I was really cringing really hard at that moment. It really pissed me off.
Well, as much I didn't like that, but I was already pretty pissed at that point because of something else in this movie.
Okay.
Which I didn't want to be pissed at. I wanted to really like, because I liked the idea and the concept of it.
Mm-hmm.
The execution, however, the effect made me want to strangle children. No, I'm I'm exaggerating, but like it made me want to leave the theater, like you're saying. Basically, the Ian Holm, the CGI Ash, or in this movie Rook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely the worst dog shit I've ever seen.
Story-wise, on paper, it didn't bother me.
No, it's great.
The visual execution of it, especially when I first saw it, and I was the same way you were. But even that I got over. Like, I'm just thinking, with the way deep fakes are now and the technology is there, why did that look so bad?
People just don't want to use like AI at all, and I get that, but like, then I don't know, man. Deep fake is like a collaboration, isn't it, between people and AI? I don't really know how it works, but
yeah, I mean,
if you can't do that because of ethical reasons, then I don't know, figure something else out, because this was just distracting, like, and weird. Like, it just didn't work for me, and I wanted it to.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it was just that introduction shot with Rook that was kind of like close up on him, that he was like so big on the screen, that really bothered it for me. Once he settled it in was talking a little bit later on, kind of throughout the film, it didn't bother me as much. But that introduction, I was like, that introduction had to be perfect in order for that to work. And that is the worst he looks, because I was so focused on it. Like, when he kind of blends into the background with other characters talking and everything else going on in the room, I was fine with it. But that introduction just fucking was like a kick in the face. It was like, yeah, you think this is going to be cool? Well, fuck you.
And I did like, however, his callback line where he said, I think he said something like, "I won't lie about your odds, but you have my sympathies."
And to me, that was great, because an android created by the same company, obviously the same model, same visual look, gave me those Terminator vibes of like, okay, they're going to kind of have some of the same programming. So it's very likely that the AI of that android would repeat a line like that, because it has the same programming.
Yeah.
So to me, that was perfect. For if you're going to have a character in there repeat a line, it's an android that looks exactly like another android we've seen. Now, the one thing that I thought was bad about that was the fact that it looks he was all ripped up like he was, and I say was, obviously it's a different android and alien, but he was kind of destroyed in the same fashion. So you're like, wait, is that the same? And you're like, no, it just,
Well, I mean, yes and no, because he has a torso at least. The other one is
yeah,
just a fucking head. Like they
yeah,
reanimate his head in that. Is it Bishop that you're thinking of that's torn in half?
yeah. Maybe it's a combination of those two things. Maybe I'm just kind of blurring those two
And they
lines.
do that like David also is decapitated too at
Yeah,
the end of Prometheus. So
yeah. Yeah, you got to destroy the android. I get that. You're right. But this
but
one already being destroyed to start. I mean, it just felt like give me some more of the body there. Maybe the limbs are just cut out like a Lieutenant Dan or something like that, right? So there's a little bit of something to work with. Because at that point, it may have just been a talking head. Give me the full on Futurama style talking head, and I'm good with that.
Mhm.
But
yeah.
so a few things that I found pretty interesting on this was right that all these aliens survived after they hatched out of the humans that they'd killed on the spaceship or on the not the spaceship, but the vessel. I don't know, the space station, I guess is what you'd call that. So, but I was just wondering, like, if they're all here, why haven't they come out earlier on in this film? Right? We kind of wait until we're in their section of the ship before they're woken up. But we get the face huggers throughout the entire ship, which I like. Don't get me wrong. I like that. And I like how there was face huggers in the water and everything. I will say part of this movie gave me serious Resident Evil game vibes in a good way, like where you're dealing with all this shit and all these scary things going on in like some fun environments, but just set in the aliens universe. So
Yeah, the face huggers definitely were a lot more terrifying this than they have ever been.
yeah, I think they had some really good motion capture on those with how they attack people and things, we hadn't really seen or explored before. And so that really made them,
They had a lot of remote controlled face huggers too, which was crazy.
yeah.
They did a lot of practical effects, and that's the thing they were touting. We did so many practical effects in this movie, the alien costumes, the things, and then they show you that CGI Ian Holm, and you're just like, fuck you.
Yeah. Doesn't that take away so much from a movie that spent so much time on practical effects? Like you spent so much time on these practical effects and you throw that in there. That was really hard to handle,
Yeah.
you know? But like I said, once they kind of stopped focusing on him full screen, I was like, okay, whatever. It didn't piss me off as much. But that intro, man, it really fucking didn't sit right. But we get to see all these deaths, man. There are some good deaths on there, like you said. And there's definitely some callbacks to Prometheus as well. Like, obviously, in Prometheus, when she's getting the creature cut out of her, which, is essentially kind of a precursor to the face hugger. Then when we see, what was that? Kay, give birth to this thing, and it's fucking a bloody, gory mess. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like how that thing tries to breastfeed, and she's like secreting goo.
Uh-huh.
Like, fucking looks like ectoplasm and shit.
And then it basically kills her and is feeding on her.
I think it's sucking her tits.
Oh, it is? Okay. I couldn't quite tell because it looked like it was killing her, but yeah, it was very fucking fascinating either way. Just very visually disturbing and unsettling, right? And
Yes.
it's like that body horror that just creeps you out.
Right. And it very much looks like the engineers, like, combined with xenomorphs and humans. We've had a xenomorph human hybrid before, Resurrection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not entirely new or anything. Is that Resurrection? Shit, I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because we have that weird looking dog alien in Alien 3. And so, but it's fascinating. I do like that they have some continuity there because, these creatures are essentially willing to evolve. But at the same time, the fact that they always refer to, since Prometheus and even since Covenant, the perfect creature, right? So why would this perfect creature try to evolve more? Or is that just basically saying that it's dumbing itself down because it's blending with whatever its host is?
Well, right. He calls it in Alien the perfect organism, and she's like, "You admire it, don't you?" And he's like, "I admire its purity."
Mhm.
Which I think they said something like that in this one too. Something about its purity,
Yeah.
but I don't recall now. Yeah, there's some of that, but it's also like this is not the perfect creature. Its own acid blood can kill it
Mm-hmm.
if it gets outside of its fucking like veins and shit. Like
It's
it's not super smart. It's like a dolphin smart, maybe, like
yeah, very intelligent, but also
it's not just like fucking speaking in words.
yeah,
It's not like
it's not self-aware enough to be like, hey, we've got this space station, we're gonna take it over. Like they're still just living on it like rats more than
they're just
anything else.
yeah, it's like a pest infestation.
It happens to be very dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to me that would be the next evolution to some level for this. If you go farther into the future, is that these things are a little bit more intelligent.
We just need Alien done by the guys who did Gremlins 2.
Fucking full-on satire. Yes, that'd be great.
Yes, us xenomorphs just want to be seen as people. You see, we want equal rights.
I mean, I'm for that. I mean, hopefully Mel Brooks will put that into Spaceballs too. Maybe he can do that for us.
Oh shit, is that still a thing?
Mel Brooks is still working on that. It's been long gestating, so there's been talk recently that it may actually happen. But if they do some stupid, ridiculous shit with it, I'm all for it.
And now it appears that it may actually happen.
Mm-hmm. So the callbacks to Alien were great. I liked how they had that kind of long hallway that they didn't want to go through, but they had to go through, where we kind of see the alien setup. I was honestly expecting a queen alien in that scene.
I was too. I was expecting a queen alien in this movie until I kind of realized that that's kind of what they tried to do at the end of Alien and then in Resurrection a little bit. Didn't really
Yeah.
pay off the same, but I didn't expect them to go with another different hybrid either. So
No, that was one thing. There's a couple of things there. I for sure thought that Kay was going to come in there and save Rain kind of at the end before she died.
once I knew that woman was pregnant, I was like, this is it. They're doing something with this baby. This baby's fucked. Sorry,
Yeah.
baby.
But I thought Kay would like kill the creature and, kill her own child creature and then would save Rain somehow. So when she gave birth to this creature and it looked like a Prometheus engineer mixed with a human, mixed with a xenomorph, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's very unsettling.
I've heard people say like Slenderman vibes. I've never actually seen the Slender Man movie, but I'm like, I could, from what I've seen on images, I kind of get that lankiness.
Before Slender Man was a movie, it was just kind of one of those internet things. So
yeah,
it's its own thing. I don't even think they're referring to the movie when they say that necessarily. Just like that's the vibe I got too. It's just like a tall white figure essentially.
yeah.
But this one had that creepy engineer face sort of, and then was like sucking on titties and shit. Like it was just horrifying.
Well, it was so interesting seeing that thing came out in that little cocoon pod that almost looked like an egg pod.
Yeah.
That we see an alien, yet it had the whole face in there, and then that face became more terrifying as it, morphed. Now, the one thing that I really enjoyed earlier on in the film was the fact that we saw the chest burster like shed its skin like a snake before it cocooned on the wall. I thought that was really cool to kind of see that left behind. I don't think we'd seen that before. If we do, I hadn't like memorized it or really remembered it. So
yeah, baby xenomorph got to grow big.
Yeah, well, and clearly, they're growing gigantic from next to nothing in a very short period of time.
Fascinating for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got?
I don't know. I was just gonna say, the ending of the movie was pretty good. Just kind of getting us there, like it was totally unexpected. That little hybrid creature, and it was unsettling. And then, clearly, obviously, there's tropes that fall within these movies, and ejecting whatever kind of creature you can from the ship works well. Lots of callbacks to Alien when she gets in the spacesuit and is able to eject a creature, but she's
Mhm.
also able to eject a cargo bay. So it was different, but it was the same. But I like how the spacesuit was different. They didn't try to like do an exact recreation of that. Made it a little bit different, so it wasn't as annoying to me. I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Just because anytime you can eject something from a ship, okay, that's fine. I'm good with that. Doesn't bother me. And then obviously, we see that spaceship or the space station get destroyed, which is pretty cool. Which they don't show it fully. Did they show that fully blowing up? I want to say we saw that kind of go up in smoke.
Yeah.
And then,
It was blown up.
we see Rain, she's able to get away there with Andy in the cryopod, which was interesting that she put the android in the cryopod. Because then I'm wondering, like, how did she put herself into one? Right? Because the androids have always been the caretakers of the people in the cryopods.
Except for Ash. Ash was in a cryopod in Alien.
Oh, yeah. And was that to cover his identity then, I guess, maybe?
I think so.
Okay.
Which is interesting. So they must be able to be put in there for some reason. I don't know why, though. It doesn't make much sense. But he was plugged into the chair. Was that not at the end? Was that that was previous when they were...
He unplugged himself to help out. But yeah, that was... that was all very interesting. And David Johnson as Andy was great. He was probably my favorite new character out of the bunch just because he had such a dynamic performance, because he's performing this android that's glitching out the whole time. That's telling dad jokes. And then he gets that chip upgrade and gets downgraded again throughout. So he had a pretty unique story arc, and I thought his performance was phenomenal. Like, Rain wasn't bad. I didn't mind Rain. Thought she was good, but Andy really stole the show in this. He was the best part, I would say.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. He was my favorite.
It just, for as terrifying as xenomorphs are, we didn't get a lot of like action with the xenomorphs as far as like battle or one-on-one stuff,
I think the biggest, when they started using the guns, it was kind of like, all right, now it's feeling more like Aliens. And that, I don't think that the scene that made the least amount of sense to me was the zero gravity scene.
Yeah, because the blood is not going to just burn through the ship.
Well, they're like, we need to do zero gravity so it doesn't like... It's going to flash on anyway.
Yeah, and that... that upped the ante for it, obviously, and then early on in the film, you're like, why are they going through this whole process? Well, it's just a payoff at the end for this final, like, what you think is the final action sequence. I thought this movie was going to end a lot sooner than it did. But then we got that whole, like, escape pod sequence, which is kind of like how the original Alien did it, right? You think you're there, and then you're dealing with additional stuff, so...
Yep.
It felt like the Aliens video game. You ever play that old arcade game?
There's a lot of Alien games, though. There's the one from 2014. Is it called Isolation, that everybody loves? And the guy who directed this actually put like check-in stations in this movie in it from that game.
Oh, nice.
So there's like checkpoints before all the big fights in this movie, apparently. Like, you can notice them in places.
No, I was talking about the old arcade game that was very much reminiscent to the Terminator 2 arcade game, where you go through and it's the arcade and you have the blaster and grenades and everything, and you go around just destroying aliens and going through the planet. A lot of the battle sequences reminded me of that, which is a good thing. I thought that was fun. The the Space Marines were mentioned as the pulse rifles they had, and then obviously the Reeboks get their little shot in the film,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was pretty nice because we've all heard that that's a promotional tie-in. They're going to release those Reeboks officially, so you can get your hands on them. But they didn't feature them early on in the film. They kind of waited till kind of a late shot to have that in there, and I was like, okay, that wasn't too over the top for the promotional marketing. If you look at her shoes before, you could tell what they were, but it wasn't a high-end feature throughout the whole film that they just kept showing you over and over, which would have been annoying.
Yeah, I'm looking at the shoes right now. They come out August 26th at 11 p.m. A week from today, they're going to be $170.
For sneakerheads, I don't think that's really a terrible price for something like that. That's a movie replica. So
It's not. They already look dirty, which is something interesting about them. They don't come looking clean. They
So
come
they're pretty.
looking. They look a little worn, but not in that they are torn up or anything. They just look like you've been wearing them around.
Yeah, that's fine. I can handle that. I won't be getting them. I don't have the money for them right now, but
I don't either. I mean, if I was to get anything like that, I would more or less go for one that looks more like the ones from Aliens, because these look reminiscent of that, but they aren't the same.
No, yeah, they're doing their own thing. Now I have seen, I think Nerf released a pulse rifle that a lot of people painted and done up to look better, but I have seen Big Bad Toy Store showcasing ones that look like they're from Romulus. So I think that's a new item getting ready to release. And they also have a xenomorph coming through a wall as a new collectible that I've seen listed here in the past few days.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would you rate this movie out of let's say out of 10?
It's going to be an 8 out of 10.
You're going
that-
8, huh?
Yep. Prometheus would be a 9. Aliens would be a 9.5. Alien would be a 10.
Okay. I give this a 7 out of 10.
I thought you
Yeah.
liked it more than me. That's funny.
I mean, it's the Alien franchise is kind of a flawed franchise. The first two are great, right? Obviously, Alien, I would say, is a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, depending on the day. Aliens is easy, an 8 out of 10. This would be 7 out of 10. Prometheus, I would say, is an 8 out of 10, even though I rank Aliens a little bit higher just because of, the way it hits the nostalgia, I guess, probably. Had I not seen those growing up, I may have rated them differently just based on the stories and everything themselves. So, but I haven't revisited the Alien versus Predator franchise, but I did see talk about doing another Alien versus Predator movie where was it Fede or Fede? How do you say his name?
I think it's just Fetty.
Fede Alvarez, and then the director of the last Predator movie, Prey. I forget the director's name of that, but they're wanting to do a movie where they both direct that. He'd mentioned that and has been talking about that, and I'm like, that's an interesting concept. So,
yeah.
The only thing about the Alien versus Predator, the timeline's pretty fucking skewed in those ones compared to the proper canon stories. And I say proper canon just because I think those contradict quite a bit of the original Alien franchise. But, video games.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's kind of like that. But
comic books and stuff. But
also, if you're talking about the Alien universe and its extended universe, Ridley Scott has said that he believes Blade Runner takes place in the same universe as Alien, and he directed both. Also, the movie Soldier, Universal Soldier, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Soldier. Same thing. Yeah, it's just called Soldier from 1998.
Okay.
Takes place in the same Blade Runner universe. What else was it?
That would make a lot of sense. I mean, just as far as the replicants and the androids. And then that's
obviously Predator as well, just if you consider the crossover. So
yeah.
Pretty
So if
interesting universe.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the
Blade Runner's 2019 is when it takes place, though, so we have continuity issues with that as well.
2019 Alien takes place in 2079, is that right? No,
like
that's
2179, maybe.
2179 because Prometheus is
I
like
don't know.
2089 is when they're on Earth and they open the movie up in Prometheus.
2089, yeah. So the original Alien's like 21, 22 is when it takes place.
Okay.
And then Aliens is 60 years later, so it's
Mhm.
20. Well, Alien Romulus, according to what I'm looking at, is 2142. And then Aliens is 2179.
Okay.
So is Alien 3. Resurrection's 2381.
Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things like you'd have to like jot it all down and fucking make a diagram and explain it all. And I've seen people making diagrams and sharing them on the internet, but I've seen several different versions that are all different and then all contradict each other. So it's just like, all right,
Yep.
we need something official. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this movie. It's fun. I'm excited to rewatch it. It's not like as far as Prometheus goes, I don't feel like I have to rewatch that when I'm watching the Alien films, but I feel like if I watched Aliens, and this would be my next choice if I was watching just Alien with Xenomorph movies, right? I feel like that's where I'd go.
Yeah, I could see that. Prometheus, I like to watch on Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. It takes place.
Oh yeah, December is when they wake up and they're waiting for the new year and everything.
Literally, Christmas happens in that movie. He has the Christmas tree up and everything.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I think they get there on December 24th. Is when they arrived at that planet. So
yeah, because when they're unpacking there, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm really curious about the TV show now. I'm like wondering, did they consult with the movie on this? Like, how does that all tie in? Because I think when you have a big franchise like that, a lack of planning can really fucking just make a mess of things. And this is already kind of messy in some regards. But I do wish, Ridley Scott would come up with a plan to give us a little backstory of how Blade Runner kind of ties to this. That'd be an interesting film, like where there's replicants on Earth, but there's also xenomorphs on Earth. Like that'd be a fascinating fucking story.
yeah, I don't know when it's supposed to take place or anything. I don't know any details about that one.
Yeah. So I guess only time will tell. But I imagine we'll do a review of it just because, we're deep in the Alien franchise right now and it's going to come out eventually and we'll probably revisit and see how we're feeling on things then.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't like that.
What do you?
I'm reading about it.
Oh, shit.
Alien Earth on Wikipedia. Main cast. Sydney Chandler as Wendy, a woman who has the body of an adult and consciousness of a child.
What the fuck?
That's already kind of lame sounding. I don't know.
Is that an android already at that point? Because that's what that sounds like to me, is an android that they're trying to cover up being an android at this point, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. A soldier, a CEO of the cast. Timothy Oliphant's in it. I like him. That's
well, that gives a little
bit.
bit of hope, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what trailers turn out like because.
Oh God! It says it takes place before Alien, so.
But after Prometheus?
Probably after Covenant as well, because Covenant takes place between Prometheus and Alien.
Yeah, and Covenant gives us the xenomorph.
We've already explored this timeline, bro.
Yeah, and why are we on Earth with this? Like with the corporation? Like if they're able to get this alien back to Earth, why are they still trying to get it later on, especially in Romulus? Because that was the whole opening of them trying to get this alien recovered from Alien back onto the planet. I swear, man, people need to get their fucking IP shit together and sit down, write out make your Venn diagrams, figure out what's going to work, so you're not just making trash to just use the fucking franchise name.
Yeah, we'll see.
Speaking of franchise turning to shit, Star Wars has not renewed the Alkalite for season 2. It's basically a one and done. So that tells you how that's going. You can't just fucking have an IP and just do whatever the fuck you want with it. But there's got to be a little bit of planning around these things.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I had fun with this, but the TV show scares me. A little worried about that one. What else you got?
I'm pretty much, I'm out of thoughts. I've emptied my brain of all the Alien Romulus thoughts.
All right. So I've sticking the taser inside of you and all the goop is dripped out and burned holes through the floor.
Yeah, but there's already enough holes in this building. We didn't really think anyone would notice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Your building's fucked. But
Which, important update on that. I ran into somebody in the elevator today and told me that the tenant union has organized a rent strike. So,
oh, nice.
I don't think, my apartment people watch my channel or anything, so they won't be learning it from this. But,
No.
interesting update, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm moving in less than 2 weeks, but still.
Another move. Well, this place will be good for you, though. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. And thanks for tuning in if you were here with us live. And if not, let us know what you thought in the comments below. Anyway, we'll see you back next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.